Welcome back. Well, news from Farming UK that the University of Stirling students have passed a motion to go fully vegan. They've voted to adopt a completely plant-based menu in a UK first for a university. The intention is for a 50% plant-based target achieved by the beginning of the 2023-2024 academic year, with 100% to be achieved by 2025. And according to the Students' Union, the motion was passed to, quote, address the climate and ecological emergencies. It's the first time in the UK following similar commitments by universities in Germany. Other universities have rejected that. For instance, the University of East Anglia, which I know well, I used to run around there in Norwich, Norfolk. They decided to go against that. They don't want to do that. And also in 2020, students at the Edinburgh University decided not to go that way. Joining me now is Nathan McGovern, who's co-founder of the Plant-Based Universities campaign. I didn't know that there was such a thing, Nathan, as a plant-based university campaign. So what does it mean? Does it mean that no meat will be served on campus whatsoever?
So firstly, lovely to be on the show this afternoon talking to you, Tricia. What this vote means is that by 2025, all of the outlets operated by Stirling University Students' Union will be 100% plant-based, serving cheap, nutritious, delicious plant-based options that are also saving the planet at the same time.
And so, why do you think it failed? Why has it succeeded at Stirling University, do you think, and failed at others?
What I'd say, it's a testament to the ability of, the younger generation, the students to, read research, the likes of the University of Oxford, University of Harvard, the IPCC, and, act on those really conclusive scientific researches that have happened, and I think it's testament to, the campaigners of the Plant-Based Universities campaign for bringing this message in such an easily digestible way for the students at Stirling.
Using the pun, easily digestible. But everybody thinks of students after a long night out going and having a kebab. That has got to be the eternal vision. So you're saying students, if they're in town, they can eat as much meat as they want. It's just when they're on campus, they won't have access to meat.
So it will affect the student unions outlets. Whatever students decide to bring onto campus is up to them. What this is really about is universities making a definitive statement. They're supposed to be preparing young people for the future, and a plant-based future is a necessary part of that preparation.
Now, so you've got a campaign, not just, Stirling University, as I say, is a success story from your point of view. But are you saying this campaign is to approach all universities to do a similar sort of thing?
Oh, yes, a wonderful question, Tricia. So, the campaign is active in over 40 UK universities. And, if any of your viewers want to get involved, just head on over to plantbaseduniversities.org and we'll help everyone who wants to get involved in this movement. We've seen, wins at University College London adopting default plant milk in their cafes, London Metropolitan University committing to meat-free Mondays, because there's this growing body of motivation and recognition that we need a plant-based food system, for humans, for non-human animals, and for the planet.
So how do you start a campaign? Like this, what do you do? How do you reach out to all of the students? How do you sell your message?
So what happens is, there's a lot of students who are really passionate about their future. And, as I've said, have done their research, looked at the papers by the University of Oxford, University of Harvard, and know that transition into a plant-based food system is the key solution to the climate crisis. And, they reach out to us. And, from there, it's just a matter of, helping them, who do they need to get in touch with at their universities? How do they write a policy motion? Just building this community of people who really, really care about their future and everything around them.
Now, I originally got this story from the Farming News, but the UK farm leaders, I'll read from them, they've criticised university meat bans for misunderstanding the differences between British production standards and those around the world. Farmers have raised concerns that such moves are a knee-jerk response to fighting climate change, and that by sourcing local British meat and dairy, that's a better option. What about that? I mean, what if universities, for instance, I'm going to say the University of East Anglia, as I said, I lived in Norwich for a long time. I know that campus really well. And rural universities, what if they did, instead of bringing in a ban on all meat, would it be equally acceptable for those universities just to reach out to local meat and dairy producers and eggs producers and do it that way? I mean, one could argue they are also reducing the carbon footprint. It might be argued that a lot of plant-based food is being flown in from overseas.
Well, it's wonderful you bring that up, Tricia. And I think it's really important, again, to go back to the data, look at the research. And I'm sure we can agree the University of Oxford's a pretty reputable institution, right? So research done in 2018 that brought together so much kind of meta-analysis, other research, and showed that grass-fed beef is actually the single worst product for the environment that is produced. And I say this, but I don't want to say this as an anti-farmer message. You know, we're actively looking to work with local farmers. You know, at the University of Stirling, we're pushing for them to be working with plant-based producers in the area to keep that beautiful local Scottish produce coming into their, you know, catering facilities. And, you know, the truth of the matter is, you know, we can transition our farming to plant-based farming and also rewild vast amounts of land. You know, it's a win-win for everyone.
So not even sourcing local, say, eggs and dairy and things like that. That still doesn't work for you. I mean, what about dairy? Does that mean on the campus that it's all almond milk or soy milk, etc., and no cow's milk?
Yeah, so it would be, you know, plant-based alternatives to milk, whatever, you know, that university decided to implement. You know, across the board, plant-based milks are multitudes better for the environment than dairy milk. You know, that's just fact. You know, all you need to do is look at that Oxford study from 2018 again.
So coming back to Stirling University, obviously they've set the pattern probably now for a lot more universities. Here's something else I think. I mean, I don't know if they do it, but I mean, I think well, it's not a joke. It's a reality. I sent both my kids off to the Royal Holloway, and their parting gift was a slow cooker, so they can all chip in to cook. It seems to be on a serious note. I mean, you're laughing now. They hated me at first. They loved me after a while, but on a serious note, is it going to be any way of addressing how students actually come at a plant-based diet? Because one of the dangers is that people just cut out meat without actually looking at different food groups and what have you. So, I mean, personally, I'm saying I think it would be a good idea if you brought that in, that you did have cooking clubs or what have you to enable students to actually create their own cheap plant-based meals, because otherwise they're going to be trust me, the kebab shops near Stirling University are going to be saying, woohoo, we've got customers lining up now. I mean, isn't that the danger unless you teach people what to do with plant-based product?
Yeah, I want to say I would have been absolutely gobsmacked if my parents got me a slow cooker when I went to university. I don't know where your kids came from. But yeah, you know, that's a really important part of this whole process, Tricia, is education and reaching out and building these communities of people who really care and having these cooking classes, you know, having these demos, working with the catering staff at universities to make this transition, you know, obstacle free. And, you know, it's not about reduction. It's actually about, you know, we can increase what's on the menu. You know, we can delve into beautiful local produce, you know, whether it's, you know, in Stirling or local produce to East Anglia or to the Southwest, wherever it is. We can work with what's in the area, you know, to produce cheap, nutritious, delicious, seasonal meals, you know, whether that's been cooked in the university or by students, you know, in their accommodation.
Now, and again, just coming back to ready meals, because we know a lot of students get takeouts and what have you. So, I mean, again, there's going to be a lot of takeouts with meat coming in. But let's talk about the price, because one of my bugbears, and I have to say I don't eat meat. I haven't eaten meat since way before it was trendy, since 1982. That's probably before your mother was born. But the whole thing about my bugbear with a lot of the supermarkets who do ready meals that are plant-based, it's a rip-off. they charge stupid prices because they see it as a fad. And a lot of students who want a quick meal are not going to be able to afford that. So, I mean, there is a lot to consider. It's not just as easy as just saying no no meat on base. There are a lot of different things. I mean, if you have to go and buy a ready meal, you're more likely to go and buy a cheap, let me say, Tesco's or something, £1 lasagna or shepherd's pie or something like that, than something that's priced silly money purely because it's plant-based.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point. And, when you kind of look at these kind of new kind of meat alternatives, they might be more expensive. But when we kind of bring it back to whole foods, plant-based, local, seasonal, that's when the price really comes down, which obviously is a concern for students here like me, is how much we have to spend whilst we're at university, whilst we're having to work whilst we're at university. And, what I would say is, we have a growing demographic of young people who are adopting plant-based eating. And with that, supply and demand, there's going to be more on the market because there's more demand for it in the market and the prices are naturally going to come down. And, just a further point on, the prices of, your Tesco lasagna, like you mentioned. So the meat in that is made artificially cheap by this rigged subsidy system that we currently have. It's a subsidy system that isn't really working for farmers at the moment. They're barely making any profit. It's not working for the environment. It's not working for the taxpayer either.
So there's a lot more involved than just eating plant-based, product and what have you. Thank you so much. I mean, I've got one vegan kid, by the way. I'm a vegetarian. Long since left university, but it's still an issue, and they live in London, and it's still an issue about checking out which places actually really serve vegan food. I'm going to say, from the point of view of being a non-meat eater, the number of times people say, I have to ask what the basis of a soup is, because they say, oh, it's vegetarian and the basis of chicken soup. I mean, there still needs to be actually quite a lot of education as to what vegan and vegetarian really is, and that, and that chicken is not vegetarian. But, all power to you. I mean, all power to you. And as I said before, I still think it's going to be a sad reality that the kebab shops and the fish and chip shops around Stirling University are going to be going woohoo. But if you can educate your students there how to cook and to make their own meals, I think it does augur very well for the future. Thank you so much for talking to us.
It's been a pleasure.
There we have it. So that's one of there you have it. I mean, Nathan McGovern. Now, we know things like climate change and issues and, what have you are always usually the premise of the young. But it's actually nice to see young people, rather than just preach about it, actually do something that affects them, I've got to say. And I love it that they're thinking about our planet, because we, the older generation, have played fast and loose with our planet. So it'd be nice to see this generation coming up. That's Nathan McGovern, who's a co-founder of the Plant-Based Universities campaign. That's why I love this show. I didn't even know they existed. We live and we learn. And I've just got brownie points for my youngest kid for doing this whole segment. So there you go. It's a win-win for everybody. Do give us a call on what you...